was in my hotel room, me and this stranger that I was out on a mission looking for drugs and ran into a stranger. And so the stranger did a robbery. So the stranger came off with the money. We had so much drugs and alcohol and money. Came back to my hotel room. We was getting high. And by the time before it got daybreak, something just came in my heart and told the stranger, I don't want to get high no more. I don't want to do this anymore.
I began to lose faith around what was it? When I was 11, that's when my dad had kidney failure. That was around the time I began to start coming to church. And from there, then my mother lost her job as well. And then we ended up getting evicted from our apartment. And we got evicted from our apartment, and that's when we began to lose faith so much. And I felt like I was always had faith in God, but it just wasn't the same.
I was in about 6th or 7th grade, I believe, and while I was sleeping, there was this banging on the door, but I thought that it was a dream. And when I realized that it was reality, it's when I woke up with someone standing at the edge of my bed with a gun pointed at me.
My father had passed away about maybe 4 years ago, something like that. And after I had been, kind of wrestling with God, all right, look, Lord, I'm trying to build a relationship with my dad, but I know he's sick. And I was praying to God, all right, God, if it's your will, heal my dad, let everything be good. And if you do, then I promise, I'll let everything go that he's done, and I'll work to build that relationship with him.
And I just knelt on my knees. All I can remember, I just fell to my knees, and I couldn't stop crying and asking God to take it away from me. I just kept saying, Jesus, Jesus, on my knees. Lord, take this away from me. I don't want to live this no more. I don't want to live this. I want to live, Lord. I want to take care of Isaiah. I want to live, Lord, for you. And I couldn't stop crying, so eventually it took a good while, and I finally came up off of my knees after a good while, and I just kept praising in the hotel room by myself.
He was in and out of different shelters, and then we began to lose faith. And then what happened was my father got a random phone call saying, oh, we have a kidney for you. You don't know how excited that my whole family was, because it was such an amazing thing. Because we thought he was waiting for a kidney for 5 years. Usually a kidney transplant waits 7 to 10 years. That random phone call, 11 o'clock at night, was a very true blessing. Then everybody finding money to gather him, to get him to a cab, to get to the hospital, had a transplant. The next morning, we find out he's all fine and everything. So now I look at my father, he's all happy, more moving around more. He's not hooked up to the machine anymore when he's sleeping at night. And then my mother got a little part-time job, so then we end up leaving the shelter system, having our own apartment.
They were screaming, they were cursing, telling me to get up and to get out of the bed and to go into the living room. And they were questioning me because it turns out that they were looking for my cousin. And in that moment, when I actually met my mom in the living room, I just remember saying, we have to go to church. We need to go to church. And I think the deeper meaning behind that is understanding that church is where God is.
That was on a Wednesday. It was the National Day of Prayer. I was at Harvest Fields. It was 3 o'clock. I finished praying. I went home. As soon as I got home, my brothers were there and said, Keem, you might want to sit down. So I was like, all right, what's up? So they said, all right, well, I don't know how to tell you bad news, but Avi passed away. And that kind of broke me, because I was like, all right, well, God, I just finished praying, that you would heal him so I could have a better relationship with my father. And that's the same day that you take him. So clearly I had questions and issues about God. But this was right before I was getting ready to go on a mission trip to Guatemala. And I went to a meeting just before, and the pastor was praying. And in the middle of his prayer, he stopped and said, you know what, I feel like God just wants me to pray for you and tell you something. And I just finished saying to God, all right, well, great. Now I don't have a father, so I don't know my identity.
Before I came to Christ, I first was a drug addict. And then I got clean and sober for 20 years. It's 20 years now for drug addiction. And then I moved over here to Bronx River 2011. I just refused to pick up that drink and look forward to coming to Infinity Church every Sunday.
That's when I really felt like God was truly moving in my life. 'Cause I felt like finally a brand new change in my life. It was, I can't really thank anybody enough for everything. I usually used to keep that silence because I always never really wanted so much remorse for people. But now, just seeing that from God, I was like, oh my God, I can't thank him enough. I can't thank the people around me enough. I don't know what I'd be doing without him or anything. I could probably be selling drugs or anything like that. I wouldn't not care about school or anything. But then just the people around me, the true faith I had, the continuation of everything, I think it was truly amazing.
I feel like throughout that time, just like singing gospel music, I felt a lot of peace within it. I felt God's presence within it, and that's really where God became the realist to me.
This pastor said, I just feel like God wants you to know that I call you a mighty warrior. And he just continued to pray for me. And after that, I was like, wow, you know my pain, you know my struggle, you know what I've been through. And I just finished saying, I don't know my identity because my Father is gone now. And my Father in heaven stopped everything to let me know that he considers me a mighty warrior. And from that point, I was like, wow, God, you really are personal, and you do love me in a personal way. So I knew that he was there for me and that he wanted a relationship with me and to know that he knows me.
Today is a day to remember that Jesus Christ died on the cross and he was resurrected on the third day for me and for you.
Say